prominent researcher of Sylheti Nagari scripts. Then Ms. Dina Begum, acclaimed British Bangladeshi author and food writer, known to us all, Ms. Dina Begum. And the session will be moderated by my colleague, First Secretary Warishul Islam. Over to you, Warish bhai.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to the literature meet. You know what? This is a very historic moment for us because for the first time ever in the history of Bangladesh High Commission London, we have arranged such a platform where the bright minds who deal with writing, researching on different writer scripts are here. So this is a historic moment for all of us. May I request for a round of applause for our panelists as well as for our High Commissioner and the entire team. So my name is Warishul Islam. I am the First Secretary in the Bangladesh High Commission London. Although I'm trained to be a diplomat and we are working with the complexities of the international affairs, but today we'll be dealing with in a very lighter tone because we'll be talking about culture, food, writing and so on. And I hope this session will be very much insightful and inspiring. I am joined by three of the brightest minds, so allow me to introduce themselves. So first, on the my leftmost corner, Nadia Kabir Barb. So she is a writer, journalist and author of Truth or Dare, a voice who beautifully captures the complexities of identity, memory and culture. Sitting next to her is James Lloyd-Williams. He is a researcher on the Sylheti Nagari script. I have come across few people today who actually did not know that Sylheti has a unique script. And since most of the Bangladeshis in town hamlets are from Sylhet, it's something we can really take pride on. And in a good amount of his life, James lived in Sylhet and town hamlets. And sitting next to me is Dina Begum. She is a food writer, author, and one of the leading voices of Bangladeshi cuisine. She authored the Brick Lane Curry Book and Made in Bangladesh. So what do we want to achieve today? So after this discussion, we want to find out the evolution of identity of the migrant, the mixed culture, creative freedom or creative tension, question mark. And then where is the home? Is it geography, memory, or language? This is what we'll be digging deep into. And before I formally begin, I want to give a disclaimer. As a moderator, I'm supposed to be very neutral, but as a Bangladeshi, I consider myself, I'm made of half biryani and half emotion and passion. So I might be a little bit of bias, please forgive me for that. So without further ado, let's begin our journey. Crossing borders, culture, identity and belonging. I'll first begin with Nadia. So I had the opportunity to glance over a few books that Nadia wrote, and the stories that she wrote flow onto different fulfilling, like the Bangla Choto Golpo, where we say that shesh hoiyao hoilo na shesh. So not always you have the happy ending, sometimes some sort of drama, tragedy, sadness. So what about the diaspora, the Bangladeshis who are coming from Sylhet, Dhaka, Chittagong and settling in the UK? What do you think? Like your stories, how do they come up with identity? Is it about the home or the new one? Where is the complexity lies?
I think that's a great question, but first can I say thank you very much for having us here and thank you to our High Commissioner for inviting us to this panel. I think identity, that's a very, very good question. I think nowadays what I would say is thanks to globalization that we all have different identities. For example, I consider myself British and Bangladeshi because I straddle both countries. I've lived in Bangladesh, I've lived in England for most of my life. So for me, my foundation is that I'm Bangladeshi, but the bricks and mortar that I'm built with I would say, is British. So my humor is British, but how I look at family or community is Bangladeshi. So I think what happens is that in my stories, I write about the diaspora here, but also people living in Bangladesh. And I think, as you said, my stories aren't all happy. And I think that's what life is. Life is not always happy. You have many different facets of a human being and their lives. And so my characters, I think, follow that. You know, you have some people who, I have, for example, a young man in Bangladesh who is begging in front of the American embassy. But then again, I have a young British Bangladeshi homeless man who is living in London. And although you think, you know, they're completely different people, but their stories to a certain extent are similar. So I think, you know, whoever you are, wherever you are, I think you do have this kind of dual identity. In fact, I think, occupy more than two identities, because although you're British and you're Bangladeshi, this third space that we occupy is being British Bangladeshi. So I think, you know, although your identity, you can have more than one identity. I think the bottom line is that it is okay to be more than one thing. And I think in my stories, that's what I try to show, that, you know, not just being British Bangladeshi, but as a human being, you can be more than one thing. So I hope that answers your question.
That's fantastic. So it reminds me of like something like a blend of bhorta and English breakfast. So it could be a very enlightening cuisine. So taking that bhorta and breakfast together, British breakfast together, I'll move to Dina. So we know that we are what we eat. So Dina is one of our food ambassadors in the UK. She has written extensively on the Bangladeshi cuisine and the recipes as well. So let's move on to something, you know, thought-provoking. And as a Bangladeshi, it catches my eyes. Like in the 80s, 90s, even in the early 2000s, the Bangladeshi cuisine here, the Bangladeshi restaurants were very much dominating. But over the years, we have seen there is a little bit of decline in the splendor and vigor of that. So why is that? Do you feel something like that? Or where is something missing there?
First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you to the High Commissioner for this invitation. I think, to be honest, when the restaurants were started in, it's been over a 100-year journey. Bangladeshis have been, or by at that time, Bengalis in the UK. And it was India, so everything was called Indian, and it was a search of a new kind of cuisine, or sub-cuisine as I like to call it, because it's a blend of Bangladeshi cuisine or Indian cuisine for the British palate originally. So over the years, I mean, 60s, 70s was a huge kind of migratory kind of time for Bangladeshis coming over here post-independence. So business was restaurants. I think at one point on Brick Lane, which is the hub of the British Bangladeshi community, there were 50 plus restaurants. So now, as you've seen, there's probably about 10 or so, which is a huge decline, and overall around the UK as well. One of the reasons I think is because there is a lot of cuisines from different parts of the world. There's a lot of competition. So the restaurants that were kind of before, you'd have Indian, Chinese, a few kind of world cuisines, but now there's so many regional variations, varieties. There's a lot of competition wherever you go. It's all over London and the UK. So these restaurants, I think, because people are also, in my work I sometimes talk about, people are seeking authentic experiences in terms of food, regional cuisine. So as you know, the British, the Indian restaurants or the curry houses are Bangladeshi owned and run mainly, but the cuisine hasn't always been traditional Bangladeshi cuisine. So people want that kind of authentic experience, and based on that, some of these are closing down because of the competition, plus high rent, gentrification of the area, which I talk about a lot in my first cookbook, Brick Lane cookbook, where migrants kind of go to an area. Brick Lane is a huge kind of hub for that. So everyone kind of over the years, for the last maybe couple of 100 years, you've had different communities moving to the area, but then they've kind of moved away, established themselves, and another new kind of immigrant population comes along. And over the last maybe couple of decades, there's been a lot of gentrification, a lot of rising costs of things, so people can't sustain those businesses, which is one of the main things, and also just trying to, I guess, pivot their businesses to create something new. So as you've seen, there's a lot of kind of curry houses that are kind of traditional, cafe style, which are more authentic, people go to, and a lot of traditional Bangladeshi regional cuisine is coming up in the UK. And one of the reasons, I think, it hasn't declined, I think it's just changed. I would say it's changed a lot, because if you've ever been to Green Street or Upton Park, there's a huge kind of hub of, it's like known as Little Dhaka basically. There's a hub of restaurants. There's probably 20 to 30, I would say, within 5 minutes walk. And that's great to see, because it's shifting away from one area but not disappearing. It's just changing focus, going to a different area and different neighborhood. So in a way, I feel like there's been more of an embrace of Bangladeshi, authentic Bangladeshi cuisine, but just not the Indian curry houses that we're kind of used to. So I hope that makes sense.
That's wonderful, wonderful. Now I'm moving to the writing part of the script, because language survives when it has a unique script, and that carries forward to the generation to generation. So Sylheti has a special unique script that is known as the Nagari script, as I've told earlier. So when I was talking with James and reading about his bio, that earlier he struggled in speaking in Sylheti, and in some point I think people here were also not that much comfortable in speaking the Bengali or Sylheti here. So what actually brought you to research on the Nagari script? And given that historical scripts in mind, so do you think that is it about the reminiscing the heritage, or it is still shaping the identity of the British Bangladeshi youth here in Tower Hamlets?
Well, certainly it's potentially shaping their identity. Going back to, can I just skip the question for a second and go back to my own background? I am a chameleon, many colours. I have many identities and none, because a Welsh father, French mother, born in Calcutta, grew up in Delhi. I was speaking Hindi, English and French at the age of 7. And so, yeah, I was a member of many cultures and felt at home in maybe no culture, really. So, by various means, after I left India at the age of 19 for university here, though I'd actually been in boarding school in England. By various accidents, I ended up in Tower Hamlets for my first job as a teacher, as a school teacher. And I'd been, although my birthplace was in Calcutta, and I'd not had any contact. My father moved back to Calcutta for his job as a bank manager when I was a teenager. And then I revived my interest, and I got an interest in the Bengali culture, and the famous sitarist, what was his name, who taught the Beatles, Ravi Shankar. Yes, his group was there, and through various contacts I learned the tabla from his group. And I got interested in the Bengali culture, music, poetry. I started with my interest then. Then after some voluntary work in the villages in India, I became fluent in Bengali for the first time. And then I moved to England, and I trained as a teacher, and I got my first teaching job in Tower Hamlets. I thought I could speak Bangla. I mean, not 100%, not a very big vocabulary, but quite a good accent fluently. And I thought that would be good in Tower Hamlets. And well, the Sylheti men, there were very few women then. The men were mostly just left their families behind at those days, the 70s, 1970s, late 1970s. Most people couldn't understand my Bangla, even though actually I was quite good. And they tried to respond to me in Urdu, very bad Urdu, broken Urdu that they'd learned at school in Bangladesh. And I thought, what's this? And they had their own language called Sylheti. And so I got this, I suddenly got, I must learn this language, I must learn it. And everyone was ashamed of their language. There was nobody who wasn't, I found, wasn't totally ashamed of their language. They would have thought, Sylheti mat hikiona, eta khasra basha, ekebara khasra. And so they tried to teach me Bengali only. I already knew Bengali, but they didn't know any Bengali. They only knew like second, third year primary school Bangla. That's all they knew from their time. And I was so frustrated, nobody would teach me. They refused to teach me. And somehow, by accident, by hearing and trying. And then I befriended a guy called Amirur Rahman, who was a comedian, and he's on TV quite a lot now and radio locally. And he wrote comedies, Dunya Ulti Geste. And he actually is a Sylheti who grew up as a child in Dhaka. So he went back into Sylheti after being in Shuddha Bangla, and so he looked at Sylheti society from the outside as a sort of semi-outsider. So I felt at home with him, because I was like an outsider. I was English but not English. I was anything. I was everything and everything. And he encouraged me, and through some of his comedy sketches, and I actually acted in one of his comedy sketches. I acted as a British immigration officer, a very stupid immigration officer who didn't understand the culture. And that got me into it. And my wife also, I met in the early years in Hamlets, and she got into this culture. And it just, but I've evaded the question about the script. Now, when people say that their language is Khasra, they were made to see, they felt they were being made to feel inferior by the Dhaka and Calcutta Bengalis, because they didn't speak like them. They were treated as village uneducated. But once they said, once they discovered or rediscovered that we have our own script, our own alphabet, our own spelling system, and our own literature, well, it's a real language. Well, any linguist will tell you a language is, the speech gives a language. The writing doesn't. Writing is just a code. But for most people, they think, once we've got our own writing and our literature, then we've got a real language. And that's what gave a lot of Sylhetis began to get pride again in being Sylheti. Not rejecting being Bengali, but their pride in their local heritage.
So the question was about the script.
Yes,
is it only the heritage, or it is shaping this?
Having the script, having their own script, which isn't, so Sylheti is not a bad, broken form of Bengali. It's a language of its own, in its own right, with its own spelling system, its own alphabet, its own grammar, and then having its script made people suddenly realize that that was the case. But yes, we have a real language. It's not an inferior kind of Bengali. It's a language in its own right.
That's great. So I know a lot of questions are waiting from the audience, but before that, I will ask another specific questions to all of you, in fact. So James was actually reminding me about a famous Bangladeshi cuisine called khichuri. You put everything in, and then it turns out to be very delicious khichuri. So when we come from Bangladesh and be in the UK and try different cuisine, we bring our Bangladeshi culture here. So then comes the fusion of your writing, your characters, your food as well. So I was thinking this morning when coming here, like if I try biryani and sushi together and make a fusion of biryani and sushi, so what would that be? Will that be something like some creative freedom, or it will be creative tension? So anybody can respond.
Okay, I'm going to have to respond to this. Like you said that you are half, biryani, half, emotion. I am, I think, probably full biryani. And so I think as a Bangladeshi, we take our biryani very seriously. And so you do not mess with our biryani. And so, fusion cuisine is great, but oh my God, with biryani, you do not touch our biryani. But having said which, I actually wrote in my collection, there's a story called The Connoisseur. And it is basically about biryani, because as a Bangladeshi, how can I not have one story which is dedicated to biryani? And it was quite interesting because in it, obviously, when I won't tell you the story because I hope you read it, but there is a little bit of a disagreement at a wedding because there is not enough potatoes or aloo in the biryani and they haven't served the potatoes. So there's this little disagreement going on. And it was funny because I write with a South Asian writers collective and a lot of them are Indian. So when they read my story, they said, oh, you have potatoes in your biryani. And I was thinking, yes, of course you have potatoes in your biryani. And then there was this massive discussion about, biryani and the different types of biryani. And for us, obviously, when you talk about biryani, you have to have potatoes. But it's very interesting because it's a cultural thing, isn't it? Because in other places, you don't have potatoes, and you will know this, Dina, that is very different. But I think that, some things one can, fusion is great, but I think there are some things where, tradition and culture you need to stick to. And when it comes to biryani, absolutely no touching the Dhaka, especially Dhaka Kachi biryani, I'm sorry. That is something you do not do not touch, do not change, do not, So I think, as a Bangladeshi, definitely not, So.
Dina, you want to?
Yes.
Fusion, is it
Fusion, yes.
creating tension or freedom?
I'm one of those people, I'm very old-fashioned. I think I'm a grandmother at heart because I love tradition. I learned to cook from my grandmother and my mother. And in this book in particular, Made in Bangladesh, it's traditional heritage recipes from all regions of Bangladesh. I'm Siliti myself, but I thought when I write about Bangladeshi food, I wanted to be inclusive, not exclusive. So that's very important to me, that as a Siliti person who's also proud of her heritage, but also proud of being Bangladeshi. And I think often you see a lot of there's a lot of dissonance between different cultures. There's a lot of, this is mine and this is yours, or you're not one of us, or people feel a little bit kind of segregated in places. And I think the way I grew up, my father was really into literature, Bangla literature, poetry, and so I grew up with all of that, and it was Bangladeshi as a whole, so one country and everyone belongs. So when I write about food, I write about traditional recipes and also traditional practices of cooking, the methods that we use, our grandparents use, generational kind of heritage ways of cooking, and just the ingredients. So I try to keep as close to the authentic kind of recipes as possible. Obviously, you've got to make adaptations because you're in the UK and sometimes you can't get a lot of things. But saying that, I think it's important to me as a person to, especially Bangladeshi culture and cuisine isn't very well recognized internationally, and I think it's very important to highlight that the best way possible. So it's important to lay the foundation, which I believe, so everyone knows about the classics, the heritage, the history, and then move on to fusion and whatever you want to blend. Like Nadia was saying, we're not two cultures, British Bangladesh, but there's a third culture as well. So I think you can, of course, have that, but also bear in mind that you don't forget or kind of blur out the traditions. Like the biryani, I love Kachi biryani, I've got a recipe here. We've got, Siliti Akhni, we've got in Chittagong so many special dishes from different regions, but it's important to keep those intact while experimenting outside. But so, if somebody said, oh, you can't have potatoes in a country, I'd think that's sacrilege, really.
But then what about the fusion of the culture inside a person's identity? Like if you are, either you are a Bangladeshi or British, but when you are mixed here, bringing that, especially in the youth.
Yes.
How are they dealing with this?
You do have that. Obviously, it's important to, you naturally have that. Doesn't matter how much of a traditionalist you are. If you grew up in a different country to your heritage or your parents or grandparents' place of birth, you are going to have those influences. I do myself. I'm proud to be Bangladeshi, but also proud to be British, grown up here. So I have many dishes that are fusion. You know, you add a little bit of spice to your baking. I love baking, so if I have a cake, I'll add lots of, you know, cardamom or cinnamon, things like that. I'll have a cheesecake that's a mishtito cheesecake. So I do love those things as well. Some things I think it's nice to blend both parts of the heritage, and especially for the youth, I think it's important that, you know, people like ourselves or general Bangladeshis in general, keep promoting our heritage and keep sharing all those things. So while you have your fusion cuisines and, you know, British or American Bangladeshi or whatever, you know, place you're from, you still have a reference point that you can actually go to and find sources for, you know, Bangladeshi food, literature, culture, all sorts of things that's available and somewhere to learn from. And so I think it's very important to keep promoting that, but also, you know, it's great to also celebrate fusion things as well, because we grew up with many influences.
Sorry, I just want to go back to when you were talking about, you know, restaurants here. And I think what we all know is that, you know, what we eat at home, you know, the Bangladeshi cuisine that we make and we eat at home is completely different to what we're served in restaurants. I think, like you said, there are a few, but even then they're not exactly what you would make. And I think I wish that we would promote Bangladeshi cuisine, authentic Bangladeshi cuisine, because it's so sort of diverse. It's got, you know, we have so many amazing dishes, whether it's vegetarian dishes or meat or desserts. I mean, you know, we have a whole array of desserts that nobody knows. I mean, you just walk to the back and we have all the pitas, and nobody here will know what a pita is unless we can promote our culture in that way through cuisine. And so I think that it's very important. Obviously, when you live here, you adapt to, of course, where you are living, and you know, and whether it's through language or through food or through art, you know, you are a hybrid of many things. But also, I personally do wish that we could promote, at least in this way, our cuisine, because I feel very strongly. I think we have a very, you know, such an amazing sort of Bangladeshi.
Yeah, I will move to James a little bit later, but let me hear from the audience. So, if anyone wants to make any comments or remarks or ask any question to any of the panelists. First, please introduce yourself and then.
Hello. It's a pleasure to have such a lovely program in Town Hall, and thank you to our High Commissioner, Madam, and lovely to meet all the speaker here. Talking about the cuisine, I really appreciate that we are talking about it, but the thing is, again, for a long time, Bangladeshis are running cuisine business here, but still, we got to blame that we sell our food as an Indian food. So I'm a little conscious about and concerned about it, because we should name our cuisine as Bangladeshi cuisine, not Indian. So as we are celebrating Bangladeshi heritage and culture, we should discuss about it and take some initiative so that we can proudly say that it's our cuisine, Bangladeshi cuisine. Again, the speaker was saying that, you know, Bangladeshi Dhaka biryani. To be honest, sadly, I didn't find any Dhaka biryani here. Whenever we travel, like, you know, wherever I went for biryani, Nana biryani, Haji biryani, every time I actually disappointed and get upset, and later on back to home I try by myself. So this is what actually happened end of the day. So we should promote our culture, our heritage, our type of food, our type of clothes. When we shift to the craft as well, we hardly get to see the ladies wearing sari. Yeah, such a lovely program when a Bangladeshi program happens. we come willingly, okay, well, this is a chance where we can wear a sari and they can talk to us as a Bengali, So this is I think there is some lessons. As there's a beautiful program is happening, so I would love to ask or we'll pray to everybody that we should promote our heritage, either in cuisine, either in craft, fashion. I'm Dilruba Yasmin Ruhi. I'm an actress. I'm a fashion model from my early childhood. So I got a lot of chance to work in Bangladesh in different sectors, and I'm a writer as well. So when I see the mispresentation of our fashion, our cuisine, and lots of things, even in literature, I really get upset. So I would hope that to the High Commission, we can get the proper opportunity and space to promote our cuisine as Bangladeshi cuisine, again our fashion, Bangladeshi fashion, and literature, yes, Bangladeshi.
Thank you very much. So then it brings to another question that reminds me. Should we call it sari or shari? So the branding should come in every aspect, like normally in Bangladesh we call it shari. So I think from here we can take a cue that from today we should promote it as shari and Bangladeshi cuisine and Bangladeshi restaurants. Any other comments or question? Yeah, over there.
Good evening. This is Mahfuza Mala. I just recently graduated from SWAS on Anthropology, Global Future and Sustainability. And I really thanks to all of you for having this discussion. So my particular question is about, you mentioned about the authenticity, right? And also connecting to your comment. So my question is how to diaspora space, we reshape our culture, which seems as authentic, and who get to decide that what does authenticity means. And also an open question for all of us. I often feel that in some places we are too Bangladeshi, and there are also some spaces where we feel that we are not enough Bangladeshi. So what are the factors actually works as to determine that whether you are too Bangladeshi or not enough Bangladeshi? Thank you.
I'll take another question. Somebody raised hand here. He just. Another question someone was about to ask. Roger, did you raise your hand to ask a question?
I did, guilty as charged. So while I'm recovering from the shock of biryani and sushi, my planning was actually for each of the panelists. So I'd really like to know, what do you think is the aspect of Bangladeshi culture which is the least appreciated over here, and that you'd most like to see? And what would you do to promote it? So maybe that's something each one of you can engage with. That'd be really interesting. Probably for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Roger. I would say, because I obviously work in food, I would say maybe the arts as a whole, Bangladeshi arts and culture as a whole. I think we are seeing more and more, I think, in terms of promoting our Bangladeshi heritage. There's film programs, there's obviously programs like these, and there are many, but I think the visibility of these programs that are happening, I know I do see them sometimes, they are happening, but the visibility, the promotion of them so people can attend and kind of celebrate, because I see them all the time on social media, or somebody says, I've been to this mela, I've been to this festival, or get together. So they are happening where you have authentic food, clothes, culture, film screenings. There's a lot of art going on, there's a lot of creative Bangladeshis, British Bangladeshis, as well as globally Bangladeshis who are promoting these things. So I think it's a matter of, for me personally, I think it's a matter of promoting and advertising, and obviously continue to grow this kind of platform so people can share what it is to be Bangladeshi, the clothes, even the outfits that we wear, our sharis or saris are quite different to Indian ones, so they're quite distinct. Textiles is a huge thing in Bangladesh, so promoting the textiles, the muslin, jamdani, Manipuri sari that I'm wearing, regional kind of fabrics is also very important. So I've seen, for instance, textiles exhibitions for Indian fabrics. It would be great to have more of those, I think. So the craftsmanship that goes on in Bangladesh, I think is very important because we have a huge array of crafts, arts, music. There's so much, it's such a rich and vibrant heritage, and I think not very many people know about it unless you're Bangladeshi or you somehow have a connection. And it's something that, you know, I talk about as much as I can. I'm sure Nadia does as well. Everyone is working the field they do, but I think there needs to be more of a conscious effort to connect everybody and promote them on a wider scale and more of a mainstream scale, I would say. Not just local, where Bangladeshis get together with other Bangladeshis, which is amazing as well. So in addition to that, to have more kind of mainstream events that everybody, whether you're Bangladeshi or not, or just interested in the heritage, can find out and learn more. So.
James, there was a question on authenticity and who decides. May I request you to respond? From your research experience.
Oh, my life experience. I was just hearing all this, I was thinking of food and where I stand in food, and I was just thinking, what's the quickest way of telling of you finding out that I'm not a genuine Sylheti? What do you think? Well, give me some shutki. Give me some shutki, and I will write in horror. Everyone heard of shutki? Maybe you're not Bangladeshi, will not have. Hutki. I ekebare dekhtam pari na. Dekhtam pari na. I can't stand it. It's dry. It's their local dried fish, and you can. It's carefully and lovingly rotted before drying, and you can smell it from about 3 streets away when someone's preparing it, and it's a favourite in many homes, and it's not my favourite. Okay. And then on the opposite side, when I was living in Sylhet town and invited to people's houses, it seems that one of the favourite meals, especially with the teenagers, was plain fried chicken and chips, just like McDonald's. Just like Kentucky Fried Chicken, prepared at home. So cultures are crossing over, and I'm not sure I like either really, but yeah.
That's good. Nadia wants to respond to any of the questions, or should I do that?
Yes, I can respond to. Actually, I agree with Dina about promoting our textiles, and obviously we've talked about cuisine, but also I think that we have some phenomenal artists, and that I don't think that Bangladeshi artists get enough global exposure. And I think that that is something that would be, I think I would like to see our Bangladeshi artists getting the recognition that I feel that they deserve. And like Dina said as well, you know, to have events where it's not just Bangladeshis, but getting mainstream, you know, getting it out to the mainstream, you know, audience, and to having a wider audience, so that, you know, they are also able to appreciate not just our art, but our cuisine, our culture in every aspect. So I think that is something. I mean, everything. I mean, like you said, it's food, it's art, it's textiles. But I think we need to get it out to mainstream audience.
That's great. Now to James again, I have a serious question. So moving on from food. So since you have been researching quite long on the Nagari script, so we know that the Sylheti language will survive for ages. But what about the script itself? Do you think it's what's the future of this language, the script, Nagari script, and what about the connection with the youth?
There's a very well, there's good news and bad news. The bad news for those who love the Nagari script is that it's almost disappeared, and it's relying on a revival by Sylhetis, a lot in India, in Assam. There's 4 million Sylheti speakers in Assam, and in Bangladesh, but it's more where they feel identity is threatened, that they're keen on reviving the Nagari script. So Assam, there's a big movement, very, very strong movement, because of the strong race anti-Bengali feeling in Assam, which is turns out to be more anti-Sylheti. And here in England, there are many hundreds, maybe thousands of particularly younger Sylhetis who feel this is something exciting about our heritage going back to generations, and a desire to revive it. So this is growing, and with the technology, help of technology, of being able to actually put Sylheti on your phone and type and send messages in it and so on. It just there is a chance. I can't. None of us can say what language and what heritage will die and what will revive and survive. But we have given the tools for it to survive, I say, and I think there's a big hope that it will thrive.
Thank you. So I would take a few more questions from the audience. Yes, please.
Hi, really enjoying the lively discussion we've been having here. I have a question for James. You've been talking about how there's like a really big enthusiasm, especially in the diaspora, reviving the Sylheti script. Do you see a comparable enthusiasm in Sylhet itself, or do you think that there's diverging identities here, like from different countries in the diaspora versus Sylhet itself? And I have a question for Dina as well. You mentioned that there is like a little bit of hesitancy in like marketing ourselves as Bangladeshis out there, and like putting ourselves without the safety of the Indian label. But do you think that comes from a place of protectiveness as well? Because we do feel a lot to our food, and it's something that's very close to us, and it's quite intimate, like what we eat in our house, like in our homes, and to be able to go out to the world and share that with people. It takes a lot of self-assuredness in your identity to be able to present it like that. So, do you think that, like, yes, we need marketing efforts and we need like a bigger global platform, and we will use to appreciate it. But do you think there's also room for introspection and where we kind of come from a place of a bit more self-assured in our identity?
Could you please introduce yourself to us?
Sorry, my name is Samiha. I am just a cultural enthusiast. I'm not working in the sector, I work in a lab, but I'm just enthusiastic about culture.
So one of the questions was, I think part of your question was, at what place does the enthusiasm in the language and writing actually survive in Sylhet itself? And the main core of the of Sylhet Nagari is the among the Sufi people, the folk singers, the people who follow to some extent one of the Pirs. Pir is a Sufi saint and gives Islamic philosophy through poetry, song, and the tradition of a particular Pir, which in the West kin to a guru. So it's preserved there. It's those who, because all the most of the literature that comes from that tradition of poetry and singing was preserved in the Nagari script. But it's going beyond that, and yes, we have to say it is a very much minority thing. There are still large numbers of Sylhetis out there who don't even know that it exists. So yes, it's there, and probably it's growing, and there are a lot of people who are enthusiastic but don't feel they have the ability to do much with it. So where it will go in the future, well, God only knows.
So in terms of identity, when I was growing up, I didn't see much Bangladeshi representation, which is one of the reasons I'm very passionate about, promoting the food, and not just the food, but I think food is a great way to promote the culture as a whole. It's a great kind of conduit to opening up doors. You don't need to know the language, you don't need to know anything about Bangladesh. You taste the food, share the food with people, and people, I think I'm one of those people, I like many cuisines, so if I like the food, I will learn naturally more about the culture. And I think it's a great kind of gateway into finding out about Bangladeshi heritage as well through the food. I think in terms of marketability, you were saying about Bangladeshis marketing themselves. Originally, Bangladesh, I mean, it hasn't been very long when Bangladesh was part of India, then it was East Pakistan. So when the businesses themselves, the curry houses, etc., started, they were naturally called Indian because that's what it was then. But then over time, I think when people arrived here, especially in the UK, they were struggling. A lot of people from the rural areas, a lot of like facility people arrived in the UK through migration. And it was a matter of kind of surviving. So they were surviving, selling something, creating a business. So it wasn't so much about when the change happened, Bangladesh became independent, to rebrand straight away. So I think the focus was on, this is a business, we're supporting our family. A lot of the times people sent money back home abroad to support their families, etc. So there was a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility. So I think it wasn't an intentional thing to begin with over the years. But now I think it has begun to change slowly, but obviously more could be done in terms of trying to promote Bangladeshi food and label it as Bangladeshi. I have seen actually in quite a growing number of businesses where Bangladeshi dishes are slowly creeping up onto the menu, but there is definitely much more that can be done where restaurants should be called just Bangladeshi, not Indian and Bangladeshi cuisine, because it is a Bangladeshi business and the purpose should be to be proud of our heritage, because like Nadia was saying, we have so many dishes. We have Borta. I've written an article on essay actually on Borta and essay on Pita, because these are two intrinsic definitive kind of things about Bangladeshi food. I would say if someone said what's Bangladeshi food, for me it's Borta, which is rice, Pita, rice-based sweets and savouries, fish and vegetables. So these are so unique, and it's also driven by the, geography and the climate of Bangladesh. What's local, you won't get a lot of these things in India, for instance, or Pakistan, so other kind of South Asian areas. So I think slowly I am seeing that in my work and other people's work, that people are embracing that. And I think there has been a hesitancy in the beginning because people think, oh, would anyone want to know about Bangladesh? Would anyone want to know about our cuisine? There's not much interest, or we don't see ourselves being represented in the media. But I think the more people do, the more other people will kind of carry on and continue with that as well.
So just to add to Dina, branding takes years to create a strong brand. And from the High Commission, I have seen that in the meetings with the parliamentarians and the other stakeholders, our High Commissioner always raises this issue that these are not the South Asian restaurants. These are all Bangladeshi restaurants, and we are already on the process of spreading the word out. But we cannot do it on our own alone. So we need everyone present here, everybody's help, because the branding is a long-term game. It's a unique set of promise that you achieve over the years. Sometimes it takes centuries to create a strong brand. So since our food has been branded as something else, so we all need to come forward and spread the word. So I'll take a few last questions before wrapping up. Anybody else wants to add something or any comment, question? Yes.
Hi there. I'm Barb, Nadia's son. It feels very unnatural to address my mom by her first name. Sorry about that. So I have a quick question. So I'm half Bangladeshi. My daughter is a quarter Bangladeshi, and I was very fortunate to grow up very close to my heritage and very close to Qatar. What can we do as parents and as a community as well to keep that sense of culture, identity, and belonging as British Bangladeshis, through the generations? How do we stay close to our Bangladeshi identity?
whom is this question directed? Anyone will have. So who wants to respond?
Should I respond to my son? This is very strange. I'm responding to my son. But as you said, I think, you know, what we have tried is to keep a link between Bangladesh. So, for example, I'll just go back to my own childhood. I was born in Bangladesh, but then we moved to Ireland. I lived in Ireland, and then we moved to London, lived in London, then we moved back to Bangladesh, then back to London, then back to Dhaka, no, back to so I went to Germany, then Dhaka, then London. So it was quite a nomadic life that I led for the first, I would say, half of my life. And I remember when we moved from Ireland to London, then back to Dhaka, my mother, who used to be the principal of a school, insisted that I enroll in a Bangla medium school. And the thing is that I could barely speak Bangla, let alone write Bangla. I'd gone from London, and but my mother was very insistent that you have to learn Bengali, and so she put me in Holy Cross Girls' School because she had studied with all her sisters in the college, and she had taught there. So, so I had to learn Bangla in like, I don't know how many months, and do the Bangla final exam. So for me, you know, I think that because my mother instilled that importance of knowing your own language, knowing your own heritage, your culture, I've tried to do that with my children. And I think the way we've done it, and I hope that as a parent now, that you will do it, is by, you know, we used to go back to Bangladesh regularly. Every year, at least once a year, and we'd spend all the summer holidays with, you know, with my mother and my family there, because I wanted the children to be familiar with, you know, who they were. They were, you know, they're, like I said, they're Bangladeshi, they're British, and my husband is not Bangladeshi, so they had another aspect to it. So they did, you know, a European aspect. So they straddled more than just two cultures. And I think now, you know, as the next generation with children of your own, I think the best way is to have a connection with Bangladesh and with, you know, with Malaysia. My daughter-in-law is Malaysian. We have a very international family. And to learn the cultures that you're born into, and to sort of, you know, sometimes people, what I find is they take on one aspect of their identity and they reject the other part. And I think it's very important. I think it's a privilege to be sort of many things. And I think that, you know, the way is to learn about the cuisine, learn about the art, learn about, you know, your own, you know, your language, your culture. Go back to Bangladesh, go, you know, and, you know, understand who you are through that, I think. So, and I hope that with your children, and as a parent, that that's what you will do, that you will teach my granddaughter to, you know who she is, you know, and not just let her be everything, not just one thing or the other. Let her embrace all her identities. I don't know if I answered your question. We can talk about it at home.
Well, I was actually excited to ask a question, but I should not ask this question. I would leave it for some other time. So, you know, when we talk about culture, parenting is also a culture. So, in that case, regarding the, you know, the identity and belonging, so are the British Bangladeshis here, are they the Bangladeshi parents or British Bangladeshi parents or the British parents? What is the parenting style like? I will not ask this question now. I'll take a last question from Mr. Akbar Hussain, Minister Press, Bangladesh High Commission.
Hello, thank you. When I talk about culture, it reminds me of ethnocentrism. And why does it happen? Why do we compare? I compare with you or you compare with others, who is superior, number one. And when you talk about identity, nowadays you can see the rise of, you know, religious sentiment across the world. Many people try to mix it up with religious identity and nationalism. They say, I am first Muslim, then I am Bangladeshi or Bengali. They say, I am first Christian, then I am British. Then I am first Jew, then I am, you know, someone else. Why, you know, this trend is rising? Why the people is feeling so scared of feeling their loss of identity, loss of culture, linkage one to another? Anyone can answer.
that's a tough one. I don't know, but I think it's to do with the rise of populism. We have, as you know, people like Donald Trump, and we have, here we have Nigel Farage, and I think their way of becoming popular is fear-mongering. And I think when you start dividing society into you are Muslims, you are this, I think that there is sort of a desire to try and belong to something, is this desire to belong. And when you're constantly othered, oh, you're not, if, somebody says to me, well, you're not really British, then what? Maybe I will try and cling to my Bangladeshi side more, because I will feel, okay, I will belong here. But then if I'm in Bangladesh and they say, oh, well, actually, you know what? You didn't marry a Bangladeshi, you married sort of outside your culture, or, therefore you're not really Bangladeshi, then maybe I will try and think, okay, I'm British, and therefore I will try and embrace my Britishness, And I think it's this fear-mongering that divides people, and it makes you sort of this whole, I wouldn't clique, it's not really clique, but, it's clinging to sort of nationalism, nationality. Okay, I'm Bengali, or oh, I'm Muslim, or I'm, Hindu, I'm Indian, It's not exclusive, because I always feel like I am British Bangladeshi, but I'm also a Bengali Muslim, and it's not exclusive. You can be everything, and I actually get tired of this division the whole time, and I think it's time that, people just were allowed to be not just one thing or the other, but, an amalgam of many things, and I think it's to do with this fear-mongering. For me, I don't know, but it feels like there's a lot of fear-mongering going on, especially in the UK at the moment.
James, just 1 minute, quick answer to that.
I think we're much richer if we embrace fully both cultures that we're part of. It can be by immigration, but Bangladeshi could be fully Bengali heritage, but living in England, and to not neglect, much richer to embrace both cultures, not to despise one and take it away. And then sometimes there's failures, like my father's Welsh. I don't know a word of Welsh. I never grew up in Wales. I really regret losing that heritage, or never even gaining it. But right now I have a grandson who is got a father who is Telugu from Hyderabad, and his mother tongue. Well, I help him to study Telugu every Saturday. He's now moved to England from India. He's only 6 years old. He may or may not grow up with that, but he'd be much richer having both heritages, and we are more tolerant people if we are into more than one culture. We are not going to be hoodwinked by the likes of Trump and Farage into hatred and fear of the other, if we embrace more than one culture.
I'll just take one last question, and then we'll wrap it. So I'll just take it. Yeah.
Thank you for the lively discussion, and thank you all the panelists. I'm Dina Begum, Councillor from Bangladesh High Commission. So my question is to James. James, you are with us from the morning. You are running a workshop with us. So as part of our Heritage Week, we are actually running a workshop on Sylheti Nagri. So how much interest you have seen among the young generation to learn about the Sylheti Nagri and to know about the history of Sylheti Nagri, and what do you think we can do more, like this type of panel discussion and workshop, and what we can do more to preserve this language, as we know language is part of our culture, our history, our tradition. Thank you.
I was encouraged by the amount of interest. It wasn't overwhelming. A lot of it was curiosity rather than genuine interest. But from that, seeds will grow. And how to bring it on? It would be, it's more a matter of making opportunities available, having workshops available, having small programs perhaps on TV and radio that is listened to, podcasts that are listened to regularly by the community here. And more than one person approached me to say, yes, we must have good long workshops in London next year, and maybe Manchester, Leeds, Newcastle. And I said, yes, if anyone wants to do that, we will help. We'll see how it goes.
So the final question from our Her Excellency the High Commissioner, Madam.
Thank you. This is not a question, it's a comment. There's a discussion about khichdi and biryani, and I asked Google where they come from. It seems that khichdi was originated from the Arabian traders. They used to cook khichdi. And biryani, it's also not Indian, it came from Persia, Iran. So both of the dishes are, have foreign roots, but probably it's a marketing strategy, and that time our community needed that strategy to sell those as Indian foods. But things have changed, and we have came across a long way. I think new narrative is important, that we create a new narrative. I don't know how to do that, but we can of course depend or focus on regional or indigenous dishes and see how it goes with the local habit. For example, when I was in Mexico, the biryani was kind of reddish because they put a lot of tomato sauces there to match the local cuisine. And I think that way you can present that local cuisine of Bangladesh to a wide spectrum of people across the border. Coming to Nagri language, I think after Sylhet, this is the most Sylheti spoken city or country in the world because 80% of our British expatriate, Bangladeshi expatriates living here from Sylhet. And I think there should be more engagement from the community to preserve it. Because otherwise it will be lost. For example, if we think about Sanskrit, from Bangla, Urdu, Hindi and other languages have originated. Nobody actually writes Sanskrit nowadays, but I have seen that there is an interest to keep the Sanskrit alive in different universities, in a language institute. So Nagri could be another way of doing it. We can preserve Nagri like that, but again, initiative have to be taken, targeted initiative, so that we can keep that alphabet alive. So these are the few things I wanted to say. And the third one about the question Akbar, our Minister of Press, asked you. I believe that humans are very peculiar kind of thing. We have a lot of instincts. And one of our natural instincts is aggression. So people like to, because in 2025 we're still fighting. And it should be, over the centuries we're supposed to be civilized, we're supposed to be so many things. We shouldn't be fighting each other. But unfortunately, fighting is there, poverty is there, hunger is still here, and we're still fighting how to address that. So I don't know, we have a kind of, duality in our personality or in our psyche that we want peace, but peace actually is very hard to achieve. And that's why we have so many issues regarding peace, but everybody wants peace. If you ask a person, they will say that I don't want to fight, I want peace. But if you look at the world right now, you will see that the war is ongoing in different parts of the world. So there is a kind of, different kind of duality in our personality and psyche that sometimes we say that we want something, but probably inside we want another thing. And we cannot actually come across that what we actually want from our life. It's very unfortunate. And that is probably why this fear is still there, that we want to be identified with as through our religion, through our ethnicity or something. That is it's my humble submission, but there are other people here probably they think differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. So like the Bangla Choto Golpo, we have to cut it now, and we have to end our literature meet panel discussion here. But before ending, I have a final question to all of our three panelists. So you all have been to different parts of the world. You have actually lived there. You have eaten absolutely different foods in different parts, different languages, different culture, different environment. So my last question, just in 30 seconds, if each of you can respond. Where is the home for you? Is it the geography, memory, or the language? Just 30 seconds. Maybe I'll start with Dina.
For me, I think home is a feeling. You can take home within your house, wherever you are. You can build a home of the food you eat. Culture and your identity, for me, is the food you eat, the culture you consume, the clothes you wear, the little rituals that you do with your family and loved ones. So you could be in Bangladesh, you can be in London, you can be in Mexico, Malaysia, wherever. You can still take that to wherever you are, or you can be in Bangladesh itself and still have those things missing. So I don't think it's a physical thing. I think it's something that's emotional and through acts of service, love, the things that you share, things that you wear, and the things that you consume. And the everyday things, what I wanted to add is, sorry it's a bit long, but how to preserve your culture and keep it going forward is to instill small things of Bangladeshiness in your everyday life, whether it's food, culture, little rituals you do like Nobo Borsho, celebrating these little things that keep the culture intact and move forward.
James.
I'm not sure I can answer this question because I'm very confused myself. I've lived in so many countries, but the short answer is family, family, family. It's wherever I have family, and that is where I feel at home. I feel a little at home and not fully at home in any other culture, although I love and try and learn in depth as much as possible of any other culture. And I'm never fully at home except with family.
Gosh, you both answered my question. I think I agree with you both, and I think for me, family is where my home is, and I think it is also a feeling. It's a feeling of it's memory as well, actually. It's what I'm used to. I'm used to a certain cuisine, I'm used to a certain language, I'm used to a certain, as you said, little traditions that we follow. So I think for me, it's basically, it's my family and the memories that I carry with me, because I have lived in so many different places that, you do take all those little things with you. And so yeah, and my family's here. So this is currently my home.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us. Before I wrap up, let me share a few words with you. So, culture is a software that runs us. So, Bangladeshis are working day and night in Bangladesh for the betterment of Bangladesh, and Bangladeshis here in the UK and the other part of the world are also working day and night to promote Bangladesh's culture, heritage, and they are contributing positively and branding Bangladesh. So, from today's discussion, there are a few questions I think we all need to be going back home with. So first of all, about the branding. Like now, I think every one of us who are present here should be, asking these questions: how we can brand our Bangladeshi culture, heritage in a better way in UK. And the High Commission cannot do this on its own alone. We need everybody's support. So every piece of it's like it's like a full story where every characters come in and then the entire story gets the full picture. So marketing and branding is very important, and as James said that we are not sure whether the Nagri script will survive or die. The time will say. But for that to happen, to take our culture and heritage forward, we need investment, we need funding, we need promotion. So the British Bangladesh is here. They have a lot to do in this regard. The High Commission is there under the leadership of our High Commissioner. We are doing our best, and any proposal or suggestion you have, please feel free to come to us. We are there to support, especially to promote Bangladesh's culture, heritage in the UK. Thank you again for being with us, and may I request for a round of applause for our panelists, and may I also request our Her Excellency the High Commissioner to come on the stage to present a token of souvenir to our panelists. Madam.
have a seat. And thank you everyone for.
Just can we take a group photo?
Yes.
Madam, can I request you to be in the center?
Also, the moderator.